Hello, my name is Gladius and welcome to my ARGENTI guide. ARGENTI is the most straightforward and front-loaded damage dealer that takes on the path of ERUDITION. No DOTs, no follow-up attacks, just keep attacking, get your ultimate to blow things up. ARGENTI might just be the best DPS for autoplay and running your daily errands. In this video, we'll cover his kit, how to optimize his build with the right Lightcones, Relics, find the best way to build his team. ARGENTI has a standard ERUDITION character kit with basic attack hitting one target, a skill that hits all targets, and an ultimate that hits all targets as well. ARGENTI is very straightforward, with the exception of the ultimate being very unique. He has a very massive maximum energy tank of 180, being the highest in the game, but he has two versions of ultimates. One lower version of this ultimate requires only 90 energy, which is just half his maximum energy capacity. The second full version of the ultimate requires his energy gauge to be fully filled at 180. The full 180 version of this ultimate not only has a bigger all-target multiplier, but also packs a huge multiplier at the tail end, striking random enemies in a single target manner. The full version ultimate is what you will be looking for efficiency against high-level elites or boss enemies where ARGENTI can deal massive AoE and single target damage. The damage multiplier for this version is very comparable to Jingyuan's ultimate and full stacked Lightning Lord packed into one ability. His half energy version of the ultimate has a very good AoE damage per energy efficiency and should be used against multiple lower tier enemies with low HP across the board. This ultimate is very energy efficient and avoids overkilling weak enemies. Now, ARGENTI's talent really enhances his straightforward playstyle of using his skill, charge up his ultimate, use ultimate, and repeat. For every enemy hit by any of his abilities, he gains 3 energy and also 1 stack of crit rate buff for a maximum of 10 stacks. At 10 stacks, he gains a total of 25% crit rate. The crit rate buff lasts for the entirety of a battle, so you really want to stack it up as much as possible and as early as possible. To do this, you want to prioritize using his skill over his basic attack. His basic attack can be used on rare occasions to conserve skill points, especially at times where using a skill will overcap your energy anyways. Now, assuming you have at least 2 or more targets, and assuming they're weak to physical, ARGENTI's damage composition is fairly balanced, with a tenth of that being physical break, 35% being his skill, and around 55% for his ultimate. ARGENTI has a moderate 25% crit rate built in his talent. He gets 28% attack, 14.4% damage boost from his physical traces. It's clear to see none of his damaging attributes are overinflated, which means ARGENTI will play very well with Harmony teammates. He desires all the buffing capabilities he can get, be it attack percent, damage boost, speed, action advance, and finally even energy boost for his ultimate. He is not picky at all, but wants them all. It's not inefficient to even have 2 Harmony units beefing up all his stats in a Hypercarry team. Now, for main stats on Relics, you want either crit rate or crit damage on the chest piece, depending on how your substats worked out and your choice of Lightcones. You want a healthy balance of 1:2 ratio for crit rate to crit damage. For boots, you want speed for most setups, but you can get away with attack percent boots given you pair ARGENTI with adequate speed supports like Hanya or Asta. For sphere, attack percent and physical damage boost are your only options. Physical damage wins out slightly in most scenarios, but attack percent can actually pull ahead when you're running damage bonus Lightcones and supports like Bronya. For rope, attack percent has a slight advantage over energy regeneration, but substats also matter a lot. Attack percent rope is also more common than energy regen anyway, so it's likely than not your attack percent rope will be better. Now, for substats, you can refer to this chart for DPS performances. This is assuming you already reached 134 speed or higher, because if not, speed gets even better. The general priority will be crit over attack percent equals speed over break effect. Now we know what stats to go for, what about relic set bonuses? For planner set, ARGENTI isn't very picky. The top 4 options are surprisingly and unusually close. The new planner set from SU World 8, Firmament Frontline, is technically the best in slot, but only by a small margin. I would use any of the 4. In the end, having the correct main stats and good substats matters way more. Now for the outer 4-piece relic set, Argenti do prefer the physical set. But I do not believe it's necessary to say Argenti hard requires to have this set. Any 2-piece combinations of attack percent, speed, and physical damage boost can be very competitive. Even the 4-piece quantum isn't that far behind. So I would focus on getting the right main stats and substats when choosing relic pieces. Even just a couple of substats are enough to offset any differences between these set bonuses. Next, let's talk about Lightcones. I will be comparing his best Lightcone options, 4 stars at S5 and 5 stars at S1. Argenti is definitely not someone you should feel forced to pull their Lightcone for. His signature Lightcone at S1 is only 6% ahead of his best 4-star Lightcone at max superimposition, which is the Battle Pass Lightcone. And almost all other 4-star options are performing within 90% of the Battle Pass Lightcone itself. The main reason why his signature Lightcone is underperforming, or why the Battle Pass Lightcone is doing so well, is that while the majority of Argenti's damage is his ultimate, but his skill is still a decent portion of his total damage. The signature only buffs his ult damage, and the Battle Pass Lightcone buffs all damage. Jingyuan's signature Lightcone can be very good, but it is from a limited banner. The Himiko Lightcone, on the other hand, is a very good option for being a 5-star standard banner Lightcone instead. It's also in the shop for a premium currency if you're willing to trade pulls for it. We have really good performing 4-star options across the board from pulling on any banner. Which ones you actually end up with or even have superimpositions of can vary a lot depending on your account RNG. But even the most free-to-play friendly breakfast is performing quite well. And as always, 3-star Lightcones are not recommended for a DPS character in endgame. Low base attack, defense, and HP is just not worth it. Real quick, I'll talk about trace priorities. For traces, the ultimate, the skill, physical damage boost, and attack percent traces all perform so closely with each other that you want to level them all unilaterally. I know Argenti's ultimate does quite a bit more than his skill, but it doesn't gain as much in percent per level up, and that's why they're so close. The one that did lag behind is his talent. But for a hypercarry DPS like Argenti, you really want to max out everything in the end anyway. But the priority will be ultimate equals skill equals physical damage and attack percent over talent over the basic attack. As always, it goes without saying you want to level his ascension traces when you first unlock them. They're typically cheap and they're prerequisites for other traces anyways. Let's talk about what kind of teams Argenti works best in. The best team output setup for Argenti will be a hypercarry setup with either 2 harmony units or 1 harmony and 1 debuffer, and 1 sustain to keep everyone alive, of course. The reason why Argenti is a hypercarry DPS is that he brings very good multipliers from his abilities, but his self-buffing capabilities are quite mediocre. He is very hungry for stat boosts and is not very picky as to which. Attack percent, speed, action advance, damage boost, crit damage, energy regeneration. If you can name it, he wants it. Now, the second best option is to run a dual DPS setup. Argenti really wants his skill every single turn, which means the other DPS can't be too skill point hungry, or else it may end up being very uncomfortable for sustaining the team's survival. Speaking of sustain, if they have buffing capabilities consolidated into their kit, that will be very welcomed. Namely, Fuxuan and Huohuo will be the top supports for Argenti. Now, my favorite team comp to play with will be the dual physical and quantum team. While this team isn't going to be the absolute ceiling for damage charts, but with the addition of Hanya, which I believe is one of Argenti's best harmony supports, this setup will be very competitive and consistent, as you can either guarantee physical weakness or fish for it when you actually need to. Now, with Argenti's signature Lightcone not being super impactful, are his Eidolons the way to go for higher investment? Well, the first two Eidolons are not bad, but definitely not game-breaking. Argenti has a typical curve for Eidolon performance on a limited DPS character, where you get a steady accumulative increase and a huge boost at Eidolon 6, which is another way of saying he doesn't have an early Eidolon that is too enticing. He is one of those characters you can feel good about having at Eidolon 0. He feels very complete and have no gameplay altering Eidolons. Argenti is very strong when played as a Hypercarry DPS. He has insane multipliers that scales really hard with multiple targets. He can dish out comparable damage to Jingliu and DHIL as Hypercarries in 3 target settings. But when it comes to 2 targets or less, he does come short. He then outshines everyone again at 4 or 5 targets, but that's to be expected for a limited ERUDITION character. Argenti really excels in scenarios where lower tier enemies are constantly spawning in waves, feeding him that energy for his massive ultimate. For the time being, outside of your daily trace material farming, this type of combat just isn't that prevalent in the endgame. But with pure fiction game mode right around the corner, we just don't know. This might just be the chance for ERUDITION to finally have a place to shine. Alright, that concludes my full guide to Argenti, the elegant and beautiful knight in shining armor. Subscribe if you actually enjoyed it. My name is Gladius. Really, thank you for watching. Until next time.